This is episode 14 of Dust War Journals, and my name is Johannes, also known on the internet as Frankie, and with me today is...
Oh, I'm first this time. Luda! Hello, everyone! Hello, world!
Yay!
And...
Magnus, known as Magofor Magwiz on the forums.
And this has been quite an eventful month in Dust World.
Yeah, that's to say the least.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff to talk about. We're going to get through it all, hopefully, before the day ends. We're recording this pretty late in the evening this time. But before that, any interesting developments for any of you guys, or anything interesting on the horizon, Dust-wise?
Yeah, several, I think, but let Magnus go first. I feel so awkward now if I'm speaking before him. What is the world coming to?
There's always interesting dust stuff.
Yes.
Well, actually, for me, I haven't had too much time because I've been renovating my apartment, and right at the end, basically, where the renovation was finished, we managed to find a bigger apartment, so signed contract, and we're gonna move. So I have most of my stuff packed away, and we'll have it like that for a while. But I actually saved my painting station and a few of the models.
The
so
most
I have
important
something
stuff.
to do.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
I have been working a little bit on my allies. I have been putting together my first USMC troops, which I made head swaps on. So they're having berets, so they will be British Special Forces. Yes.
Very interesting.
And if I remember correctly, what you said a few days ago, you managed to do the most important thing in all hobby activities. You've been able to convince your wife that you're gonna get your own man cave or hobby lair in the new apartment.
Yes.
And it's gonna be
Yes! Fantastic.
Good news for all hobby
Yes.
Sweden, I would say.
Yes.
We can
that'll
look
be
forward
awesome.
to many good new buildings from your side and new.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm working on personally, just trying to get my own little hobby lair going. Still a lot of boxes. Basically, the one room in our new apartment that we haven't really finished yet. But we just ordered some new furniture from IKEA just today, earlier. So in about 2 weeks, we're going to kind of get everything in order, and hopefully I'm going to have much more opportunity to just get painting and building again. I'm starting to look at trying to finish some of my desert tables, just so I can invite you guys or some of our other people in Dust Vikings to have a few battles over at our place. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and your hobby room is really nice as well, because we had the pleasure of being at your house a few days ago.
Yeah, we had a housewarming party.
Yeah, and it was a great party. But once we entered your little hobby room there, I didn't want to leave, because it's so many stuff, and you had very nice organized, so you could get that overview very quickly. You already have a much more organized hobby room than I have.
That's because half of the stuff are still in moving boxes.
Yeah, but
still.
Yeah, still. And then you had a few projects there that was in the making, and it was
Oh yes.
very nice. It was. Well, if I jump in here, then I don't know where I should begin. Actually, I've had a possibility to play some games of the Endless War against Kalle. Perhaps some of you have seen the results on the Facebook page. We had one win each evening. I managed to do 2 buildings to the first scenario of the Endless War. I'm quite pleased with them, how they're shaping up. One of them I want to pour more sand over to give it even more of that embedded view or look. Started painting some of my Russian Spetsnaz, because hint hint, I'm probably gonna fly my Spetsnaz to Germany later in the month. I think it's the way I'm gonna go with Spetsnaz. Now this weekend, just tomorrow, I will be heading up to middle of Sweden and play some Endless War and perhaps some warm-up games for Germany with Kalle and Roger.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it feels very good at the moment. A lot of stuff happening.
Yes, a lot of activity, lots of hobby stuff, lots of gaming going on. So yeah, it feels great. And not just for us, we've seen there's a lot of activity going on the Facebook page, on the forums are very active. So a lot of people playing and having fun all over the place, it seems. And of course the studio seems to be picking up on this and just basically throwing stuff at us, it seems. We've had just a ton of new releases, completely new units and also some old returning fan favorites. So yes, let's just go kind of go over this whole thing because there's a lot to talk about. So in no particular order, first off we have the AB43 Lanciafiamme. This is a dustified unit, so it's the Italian scout car. We have had the normal kind of machine gun armed version available before, but this is a new version with a range 2 flamethrower. And this thing is just badass. I absolutely love it because it's small, it's fast, it's really wicked basically.
Yeah.
Just because of the quick range and the flamethrower, that combination is very dangerous, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a good unit because it's fairly cheap. I mean, it has its limitations, obviously. It's not very tough, but
Definitely
still it
not.
can be a threat to a lot of things. That flamer is nasty, and only 7 points is pretty cheap for it. So
Yeah, I see every reason for you to include it in your German army, and of course it's also interesting visually because it's a wheeled vehicle. It's always nice to break up the Walker picture, the void of scenery with a vehicle. It gives it more of a. It pulls it into the realistic World War when you got some wheeled or tracked vehicle.
Yeah, and I very much kind of like the mixed armies that you have a little bit of everything. So if you've seen my kind of standard Axis army, or more specifically the African Lions and all that stuff, and I usually try to, if I can, I use the Panzer for tank in there, and I really like how that works visually.
Oh yeah,
with the light walkers.
I agree completely. You always make a good blend with your army, and those are always, you always appreciate playing with players who can feel the diverse army. I think because. I shouldn't say it gets a more realistic feel, but it's something like that, even though that sounds silly.
Yeah, it's just those small detail, that extra touch that makes it really nice.
Absolutely. So this unit, specifically the AB43, this is only available as a justified unit at the moment. So we're of course hoping that there's going to be a weapon sprue, conversion kit, something like that available for it at some point. But given that we still don't have a conversion sprue or something like that for the Humber, then maybe we shouldn't hold our breath for it, basically. But of course you can always chop up some other flamethrower walker and put that weapon on the Tamiya kit if you want to, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like it should be easy to make this one a conversion, because as long as you have a German Axis weapon sprue of the original ones, you got that machine gun over there in the turret and stuff like. You should be able to make this quite easy, I think.
Yeah.
So
if we're going to stick with the Axis, we've seen a kind of resurgence of some of the classic Soldier 3 units. So we had a re-release of the Heavy Laser Grenadier Squad, and we've also had the Heavy Grenadier Assault Squad, the unit formerly known as the Panzers. And that's been, I think a lot of people are very, very happy that this unit is available to buy again. Because this was something that, for a lot of people, I think, just hasn't been available for a long time. So, and whenever somebody found someone in the shop, they just went immediately.
Yeah, the Assault Squad has been highly sought after for quite some time now. I mean, it's not in version 2 of the game. They were very underpriced.
Oh, yes.
So everyone wanted them always, basically.
Yeah.
Now they are a bit more expensive, so I guess they're not completely overplayed now, but they are still very effective.
They are very good, and just for a bit anti-air, but definitely anti-infantry, they're one of the best units in the game.
Exactly.
Just from how many
since they haven't been available for I don't know how long. It's been years, basically. So this is a very good release.
Yeah, I'd like to add here that the reality check I got from Kalle when he was using them, because he fielded Lara with these, and in the old days that was of course a cert, but I was beforehand, I was like, are you really gonna put them together? Is that so? I mean, they're quite expensive and stuff like that. And he tore apart my block SSU army, and practically Lara and these guys wiped my army in the Endless War scenario more than once. My entire block army, it was only they who hit and killed and killed and killed again. So,
and I just have to say, we just have to get used to it because now they're back.
Yeah.
And now Lara is also one of the units that's been returned, so she's also readily available to purchase now. And I think just that combination, the Assault Quad and Lara, that's my favorite not overpowered, but kind of overcompensating maybe combo in the game. It's my favorite kind of thought experiment to make. Just that combination of unit firing at a Soldier 1 unit. That's 60 dice.
yes.
Yeah, it's like when you think that one bucket of dice isn't enough, you need 2 of them. So.
Yeah. So that's absolutely insane. It's definitely the most dice that any unit in the game will ever roll, I think.
It's an ego boost when you just maw things to shreds. I mean, although I like another version that people has been trying to play because the Panzers hasn't been available, and it's Lara with the 3 flamers. Because with her move and fire, they get into the action, and they can, if they just survive a few turns, then they can sustain fire with the flamers and stuff like that, and that's just
I've been playing that combination myself, and it's a good one actually, because the flamers, they need the extra speed, and when they get there, they are also really badass actually. So
oh yes,
and just that combination that you get with Lara and the damage resilience and the extra hit points, that makes them you have to target them, because otherwise they're gonna fuck you up.
Yeah. So it's very good that it's only one Lara, that you can't play 2, because one Lara with the Panzers, I'm sorry that I still call them that, and one Lara with the Flamers.
I don't know, they are releasing twins nowadays.
Yes.
Maybe we'll see Lara's little sister or something.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Come on, Paolo, we need it.
No, we don't. You need it.
Okay, yeah.
Make her Soldier 2.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
That could make an interesting boost to a block Wehrmacht army.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. Couldn't that be an actually very interesting unit? Perhaps.
Actually, what could be interesting if that would be a variant of Lara.
Yeah.
So you could use one of them, but not both.
And she should then have 2 smaller machine guns, because she can't carry those big slices so that she has right now. But I mean, 2 small machine guns, a little less dice, and she's a Soldier 2, and that could boost the Sturmpioneers or something like that. That could be a really interesting character, I think. But we'll see what.
Maybe. We also have the new Luftwaffe support weapons. We've talked about these when we went through the Operation Condor book. This is the rocket launcher squad and the anti-tank squad. So now they're available. They're in a box together if you want to buy the Prime version, or you can buy them separately if you want to buy the Premium version. So we kind of seen that kind of release box before. We also have now the final truck box for the Desert Scorpions. So in this box you can build either the transport truck, which we've seen before in the other, and also the mortar truck and the assault truck.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting, which I'm not sure that we've seen before, is that you get 2 cards for the assault truck in this box. You get the Desert Scorpions version, and you also get a block version of this truck.
And that is smart, because that means more allied players will buy it.
Of course.
So I think it's good. And I watched the cards earlier today, and I immediately started wondering, passenger 2, what would I bring with my... Because it's still an assault vehicle, so passengers can leave the vehicle and attack.
Yeah.
What would I want to have? 2 persons.
Sergeant Victory, baby?
No.
If you want to go that
but
kind
that's
of
just
combo, no.
Did we get an answer to the 2 heroes in one vehicle?
I don't think we have so far.
So...
I actually sent an email to the studio today with this in mind, asking questions about it. I haven't got any answer yet, so we'll see how that goes.
Because I'm still against it. It doesn't feel right in so many ways, because you can break some rules when you do it.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with 2 heroes actually being in the truck together and just... but I don't think it's good game-wise, so I would like...
Yeah.
But then what would you place in it? I don't see any good 2-person squads. Perhaps they will come. Perhaps you should have that sniper unit.
Yeah, that's what kind of I was thinking. Some sort of sniper, just to use the truck to get them into position, and then they can use the raid, the raid functionality is for the truck itself, rather. But yeah, the assault vehicle skill. Yeah, so they can use that and just get into position and kind of take out an enemy hero or command squad.
Because of only 2 models, I was thinking either sniper or possibly actually an observer team to get them into better position quicker.
Yeah, both are attractive options.
And especially if you run this together with the mortar truck.
Yeah.
Because then the observers have something to observe.
Yeah, they get into position. But still, the mortar truck will have moved, so it doesn't. You can still not use it in the first turn. But
no, that's true.
You can never do that. But like we said, I think maybe last episode or something, one of the problems with the observer teams is that they have to spend a lot of time moving, just getting there. So usually you can't use them, like I don't know, turn 3, 4, 5, something.
Yeah.
Kind of late game, and sometimes it's just way too late. This is a way to get them, maybe like save 1 turn for them or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Even though 14 points just to get my observers into position, it's a little pricey.
I wouldn't say just to make that the kind of primary reason for using this unit. Because I think this unit is good enough as it is even without the passenger rule, because of all the frickin' machine guns.
Oh yes, definitely.
It's just an enormous amount of machine guns.
The other thing that I thought was possible to do with this one is actually to place Rhino in it. To use as a freaking missile first turn, basically.
Yeah.
If you put him in the truck and then you use the truck, and the first thing you do is a raid action with it. You can move up to 6, or you can kind of gamble and move it 5 and try to reactivate it, move it 5 more, and whatever happens after you activate Rhino for another 6 in 6 squares charge. That will cover most of the board.
Yeah,
it will. But it's still not possible to make it even more perverse and use his platoon rule for some reason and try to reuse some of his, because his boys have to be on the field.
You can't do that on first turn, basically, because it would be too far. But it's possible to do it on maybe second or at least on third turn. Yeah. Depending on how aggressive your opponent is.
Yeah.
But still, this I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's a bit strange one with the passenger 2, but it gives you some interesting options and ideas.
Yeah, moving in 2 of the hammers into position in first turn, keeping one of these assault trucks a little bit laid back with Rhino in it. Second turn, assault truck forward, Rhino jumps out, triggering the platoon rules, and the hammers are jumping in one after another. That could be just devastating.
That's an interesting thought, actually. I was a bit surprised that it, that the assault truck comes with a block version at all. If anything, I would have thought maybe the mortar truck would have been a block, or maybe the transport truck would have been that. So I think the assault truck is really curveball. It's an interesting one, but yeah.
It
But
is.
still,
I'm really
sorry.
looking forward to getting the opportunity to use this in a game, just to try out different tactics, see how they can be used. Just because they are very vulnerable once you get them into position, so you have to play smart just to keep them rolling.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and to me, if you're gonna have a block transporter, I still want that. It's what are these called now again? I'm not.
And
good with
half
words.
tracks.
Yeah, I want a half trucks, but it's still because I have this perverse idea of having one of these half trucks with the Bazooka Joe on the back of the on the truck there with a gang of gunners or something like that, and they just come charging in with the M3, M4 half tracks. Those I want for a block transport. I wanted them since day one, actually. I know Rick made some excellent alternative cars for these, and I'm a little bit sad that they actually did not pick up on those, and they didn't get more traction or whatever you say, because that is something I really miss on the gaming tables. I want M3, M4 half track vehicles on the table, and I'm ashamed I haven't made any. Sorry, I'm going off topic now. Please bring it back.
Yeah, but that's a good kind of project to have in the back of your mind. Yeah. Okay, next thing for the mercenaries, the meat grinder and the pulverizer. And this is the one we talked about last episode, I think. The kind of pounder chassis walker for the mercenaries. And like we've seen with previous, you can, if you want to buy the primed version, then you get one chassis and you get all the weapon options to build either of these. Yeah, I really like these, especially the big kind of recoilless rifles, and just it looks really intimidating for being a mercenary vehicle piloted by a lot of pretty girls.
Yeah, that was super nice actually. I think they are, I don't know, at first glance they are a bit expensive, like 13 and 14 points, but still they have a lot of firepower, and I mean
the double recoilless guns, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And like we said when we last discussed these, I think the mercenaries as a faction or as a block really have a big gaping hole when it comes to anti-tank, and this doesn't fill it completely, but it definitely helps.
It helps a lot, definitely.
Yeah, I'm starting to warm to them, but it's still, for I don't know why or something, but they still don't do it for me. I don't know what it is. I like them, but not in the way I want to like them.
I think one of the more interesting things about them is that yes, they use the kind of chassis from the pounder that we are all familiar with from all the way to the start of the game, but especially this version with the recoilless rifles, every weapon is front. There's not a turret on it, so you have to play it very differently than you would the Allied version. So it definitely has its own personality, its own gaming style. So I enjoy it. Let's see if I ever get it, and if I use it, I will let you know what I think about it. Final new release when it comes to units and kind of releases. This is a pretty big one, and it's the Battle for Zverograd starter sets. We had kind of some rumors going on that this might be a possibility before, and now it's happened. This is basically new 2-player starter sets, and they include either Axis versus Allies, Axis versus SSU, or SSU versus Allies. And basically what these are the old Battlefront era starter sets that's kind of been updated with the new cards. It's been updated with new paper mats with the grids and the dots. and put together so you get 2 starting armies in one box.
And there's the new starter rules, I
yes,
suppose?
of course. Yes, the updated rules. Just to be clear, this is not supposed to be something that's going to be available for everyone going forward. This is a limited edition release. So I'm guessing that this is something, partly this is something they've made so they can get rid of some old stock, because they had a lot of those old boxes that they couldn't sell, so they just repackaged them. But I think this is a very, very good starting point for completely new players, and especially if you combine these with the newer edition starter sets. So then you have a really good entry point into the game. And I think that's something that a lot of players have been asking for. So in that way, I think this is just a really good idea.
Yeah, definitely. This is so great, and I sincerely hope they have a huge sell on these, because this is something that's been missing. Tons of people have been asking about it on Facebook and more or less almost demanded it. So now that they're here, I hope people listen to it. I have a few too many perhaps of the units inside these, so but I was almost, if I only had the money, I would buy one of each just for the sake of it. I mean, just for the boxes. I could have these boxes also with that layout as my army boxes for when I'm going on a convention or a tournament somewhere.
Yeah, just fill them with foam, and
yeah.
Definitely you have a nice carry case.
Because they are it's so super elegant and sleek. So yeah, well, I just love them, and I sincerely hope
and
that
I mean,
these
the contents are actually really good. I don't know how much the old boxes sold. I'm guessing they sold fairly well, even though they seem to have some boxes left. But I mean, I own all of the 3 old, and I think I actually own 2 of the Axis one, for example, because it's so good. The only caveat that I have, the only thing I'm thinking about is actually Koshka and Grandma, because Grandma is a unique box, unique walker, so it's a bit limiting in that sense. Yeah. I mean, all the others, they contain like a generic walker that anyone can use. So yeah, Koshka Grandma, that's a bit more specific.
Yeah, they should.
But it's still a good mix, and they are all very. I don't know. I would say like they bring a little bit of everything. That's a little bit what I feel with the new starters. That there's something missing right from the start. I know they are supposed to be just starters, and they are supposed to get more stuff, of course. Yeah. But yeah.
But still.
And just to make it clear for people who haven't seen the contest of this, what you basically get is 1 hero, 1 walker, and 2 infantry units.
Yeah.
For each of the factions. Or
and the walkers are like medium walkers, not
not the light
ones.
So so for the SSU you get the Grandma, so one of the KVs, and a Ludwig and a Pounder.
Yeah.
For the other factions. Yeah.
And as a little tip for the Russian player, if you already have Grandma perhaps and Koshka, or don't want to play Grandma and Koshka, if you just buy 1 regular KV-47, you get the other weapon sprues if you buy it correctly, and then you just switch around, and then you have 2 with the grenade launchers and 2 1 with the two.
Yeah, with all the arms.
Just,
it's fairly easy to get some use, even if you have 2 of these. But still.
Yeah, I get your point, Magnus. It's a good point. It could have been.
Yeah. So basically, this is a really, really good investment for people who are new to the game, and I'm not sure that everyone who's already into it, who are veterans of the game, are going to get much out of these boxes. Maybe because most people who have been around for a while probably have all these units, but like I said, it's a really great entry point.
Yeah, I would have loved to see how many of these they sold at Essen, actually. So that would have been very, very interesting to me. Perhaps we can just get that number somehow, but I would really have. I hope they have sold many, because the pictures from Essen seems like they have really had a good sell as well, because they seem like a good traction down there. So
that's awesome. So, talking about the Endless War campaign, we've had our first 2 scenarios released. And the first one was called Final Destination. And, well, basically to describe this scenario, what's the first kind of word that comes to mind for you when you think about this scenario?
Maybe carnage or something
Yeah,
like that?
I think meat grinder for me. It's an incredibly brutal scenario. For those who haven't seen it, it's just kind of, well, control points, most of the stuff are quite basic. The interesting thing is that everything in your army, except for heroes, automatically gets put in reserves.
Mm-hmm.
So you just go in, you kill everything, and everything comes back, and then you kill everything again, and it's just a bloodbath, this scenario.
Yeah, and you have some interesting, like you deploy first from kind of the corner,
Yeah,
and then the reserves comes in from the rest of the long edge,
yeah.
which is it's pretty similar to
It reminds you of something, doesn't it?
yeah, very much of one of the scenarios that we put together.
You put together, you mean?
Yeah, but I wasn't alone doing it. It was my idea, but we had to do some fine tuning on that. But this one, yeah, it's really cool, and with all those reinforcements, there's a lot of killing going on.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but it's still not an easy scenario, at least not when I played it twice then. I still felt that you have to really think about it, or perhaps Kalle was a very good opponent who really tested me, because it challenged us, even though we had all those reserves. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like it that you have all reserves but just once, so it's not that endless. Because there were one scenario once upon a time when you had just every unit came back,
Oh yes.
and that to me, I don't know. I get tired when I play a scenario like that. It just doesn't. I don't know. It felt not as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You should say, perhaps.
Right.
And just earlier today, when we're recording this, in fact, the second scenario for the campaign was released, and this is the goat cheese scenario. Oh, sorry, the goat chase scenario. It actually says not cheese specifically in the description. This seems like quite a fun scenario, quite different, because
And not cheesy at all.
No, not
No.
cheesy at all. You basically have some cattle moving around on the board randomly. So after every time a unit is activated, you roll a die and then you move one of the animals on the table. And so they move around in a random fashion or semi-random fashion. And the goal is to kind of herd these animals over to your edge of the board.
Hmm?
Very, very different. And there's not that much terrain in the way in this scenario either. So I have a hard time kind of seeing how this is going to play out, if people are just going to ignore the animals and just shoot at each other, or just trying to steal from each other, or what's going to happen in this scenario.
It's very different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to play this one.
But you can't ignore them because they provide cover. They
Yeah.
are moving cover, so you have to secure them, not just for the meat, but for your chance of cover. So, what happens though if you airdrop with your Fhtagn on them? Will that frighten the cow? I think the cow should run away if they see some people coming from the sky. That should trigger.
Do you land on the cow's back and you start riding it? Or
Yes, endless possibilities here, I think. No, but
And this is going to be a lot of fun to try out anyway. And specifically, this is in the scenario. It says that you should use the innocent bystanders. And for those who haven't seen this, this is also kind of a re-release, because these were available in one of the old Operation expansion boxes.
Yeah, the Achilles box.
Yeah, so that's basically 2 goats, 2 cows, and a goat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there are specific rules that you can use for these in the scenario rules as well, both in this scenario and there's also in the Errata, the terrain rules there.
Mm-hmm.
There are specific rules that you can use for these figures as well if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of fun.
And I like also the fact that they seem so different, scenario 1 and scenario 2.
Oh, yes.
I hope they can keep that up, so it's not just okay, just another one of the same. I mean, this is just it's new, it's different. So,
Yeah. And speaking of the FAQ and rules errata, we had a new release there. We had a combined new document that combined a few of the previous kind of documents into one with the new design, so that it better matches the rule book.
Mm-hmm.
Not that many changes really from the old versions, but there are some kind of clarifications. For instance, how Commissar Poon works. We've discussed this in our last episode. And, well, Magnus, you have probably... you're a rules expert, so you probably know exactly how this is supposed to work.
It was a good clarification to know how this works, because the confusion basically was that he's not just a commissar, he's also a hero. So how does that work? People were discussing if he could be combined with another hero or with another commissar or whatever. And
I think the most frequent was if people could combine him together with a unit that's also joined with the Phoenix and the Dragon. So you have 3 heroes together in one
example.
unit. So.
And so it's a good clarification that he is a commissar and a hero, so there cannot be another commissar or hero in the same unit. What surprised me is that they clarified that he can be brought back through reserves, just like other commissars, even though he is a hero. So at the moment he's the only hero that can ever possibly come back, basically, from reserves.
And that's interesting, because that gives him a very unique position and a very unique identity in the game.
Yeah, I mean, right now there aren't too many PLA units, and there's no platoon rules out yet, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes out for them. Will there be some kind of special use for him that way, or will it only be in certain scenarios, like the Endless War scenario, where everything comes back?
Well, since the Chinese don't have any units, they have to reuse everyone they got.
So
of course but and I think it's good that one hero can have this ability. I think that he can be brought back, and especially if it's a hero like Poon, because Poon is not make all break all hero. I mean, there are a few other heroes that I did not want to have this ability, and
Zara, perhaps?
I don't know whatever gave you that idea.
No, basically he's a meat shield for the unit that he's protecting. That's what his purpose is. So I would say this is very thematic. It definitely works with at least the image that I have of him.
Yeah.
To me, I don't think it's going to be any problem, like game or rules wise or anything. I think that's fine. I was just very surprised about this, that they kind of went against the hero rule, that they cannot come back. So he's not unique in that way.
He has a lot of brothers.
Yeah, possibly. Big family.
Yeah. The other big change or clarification, however you want to see it, is how expert works, because there's been quite a bit of kind of discussion on the Facebook group about expert, and especially if it's shared with units or not. And this clarification is that no, a hero that has expert does not share it with the unit that's joined with it. And it is also not shared with a vehicle that the hero is piloting. And that's kind of... the first part is absolutely no problem. There's... I think the big thing that's kind of sparked that was the talk about Rolf for the Luftwaffe. Mm-hmm. If he shared his expert with his weapons with the other guys in his unit that's using the same weapons. Mm-hmm. And this clarifies that he doesn't. Mm-hmm. But the other part of it, that the hero doesn't share it with the vehicle that he or she is piloting, I don't really understand the point of that. Because
no, me neither.
We've kind of discussed this and just trying to figure out what exact kind of situation is this rule trying to fix.
I would say... what I'm thinking is, first of all, there aren't too many pilots that have the expert skill actually.
No.
They are pretty rare.
Mm.
So I was kind of thinking, why would they put this in the errata at all? What would be the problem? What hero would somehow use this, or you know? I'm not sure. The only one I can think about is Koshka, which is also the hero that's been discussed a lot within this. I mean, Koshka used to be expert both in Grandma and also in I can't remember the name of the other heavy flamer walker there right now, but the one with twin flamers.
Isn't it Nina? No, Nina is the... Oh,
That's
I
the
should know all them,
rocket
but-
one. I don't know.
Natasha.
Nadia. Natasha.
Nadia is the flame one. Natasha
yeah.
is the
Whatever.
salt one.
And I don't know if, to me, that's not a really big problem if she's expert with, you know, with another walker. But I can understand if the studio wants her to only be expert with Grandma. But still, the errata says that it, you know, the rule isn't shared. So, and it, yeah. The wording is a bit awkward. I think I understand what they mean, that she's expert when piloting Koshka and in no other vehicle. That's how I think it should work. And I mean, so far we haven't really got any specific answers on those discussions, on those questions. Greg posted the other day that they will update the expert in the errata to cover this. So hopefully they will sort it out.
Yeah. One problem is the fact that just how Koshka and Grandma is worded is slightly different from how other heroes and their particular vehicles are worded. Because there are other instances of this, like Sigrid when she's riding her snowlings, but it's not worded the same on the cards.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really affect them in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I understand that they want primarily for a hero to ride their own vehicle, but I mean, in a special situation, Koshka would jump into any KV-47 and she would be expert in that fucking KV. So I mean, it is, and that other KV will be a worse off KV than the Grandma. So there's no actually reason why you shouldn't be able to put her and to be expert in the other KV-47s, because the unit in itself would be a worse off KV-47.
Yeah, but still, a couple of points cheaper or something like that. So I don't know if it really
I
matters.
guess if you want to do kind of the lore reason, you can perhaps say that she's made a couple special modifications herself, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just that, as it is now, the wording is a bit awkward there, and but hopefully they will fix it soon enough.
Yeah. We also had the release schedule kind of revealed for us for the rest of the year, so we know what's coming up now in the rest of November and in December. We are going to see an Allied Lightwalker box that's going to be able to build the Honey, the Bushmaster, or the Wildfire. And the card for the Wildfire is going to be available in block and USMC versions. So this is also very interesting, because I don't think that at least the Bushmaster has been kind of difficult to get a hold of. I think.
All of them has been really difficult to find, and the old box only included the Wildfire and the Honey.
Yeah.
So this is a step up even from that, including 3 different. So I think this one is an awesome one.
Definitely. We're also going to see the Raketentruppe Hero box. This is also something that people have been waiting for. Yeah, you get all the interesting, the Rocket Man, the Kauri, the Flying Ninja, and of course Goliath, the big flying ape.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
expensive Christmas.
It's going to be, because we also have the final item on this list. The first Summoning Army box. This is the first release for the Cthulhu Cultists. The final actual 4th big block for the game. And this box is going to consist of only 3 miniatures. if you want to call them miniatures, because from what we've seen, they're going to be pretty big.
So they're bigatures.
Yeah. 2 Spawn of Cthulhu and 1 Avatar of Nyarlathotep, or however you want to pronounce it.
Something.
Yeah, and the primed version of this box, we've heard, is going to be $130. So yeah, but this is, let's see, this is about 75-80 points worth of models in just these 3. So yeah, when they say army box, they're not kidding. This is basically, almost an entire army in this box.
In those 3 models.
Yeah, in those 3 models. And they've also released the stats for them, and they are pretty crazy. We have the Spawn of Cthulhu, 23 points, vehicle 5. And that's the interesting thing. These are, of course, creatures, but they are counted rules-wise as vehicles with some caveats. And this, the Spawn of Cthulhu is kind of a melee-focused one, so it has charge, it has 2 claws, it has first strike, and it has flying. So it will it's basically like a rhino going around charging and just scratching up things, and
Yeah, but with 9 damage points.
Yes, these are going to be tough to take down, definitely. And they do a lot of damage. Like I said, 2 claws, and it's just, it's 2-4 on most vehicles, or 2-4 on 1-3, and 2-3 on 4-6, and then 2-2 on vehicle 7. So there's still 4 dice with 2 damage each on vehicle 7. That's quite a lot of damage, actually.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, they have first strike, and they are flying, so they can attack aircraft.
Yeah.
So they are pretty tough.
They are pretty tough. And of course, we have the big one, the Avatar of Nyarlathotep. 35 points, vehicle 7, 11 hit points, damage resilient. And it has special. It also has double claws. It has Eldritch Fire, which is basically flamethrower, range 3 flamethrower. So it's the first range 3 flame we've seen in the game. And it also has a special attack called a Psychic Scream that it can use once per game. And this automatically makes an attack on every unit within range 3. Line of sight doesn't care about it, just everything within this radius.
Friend or foe, isn't it?
Friend or foe, so yes, everything. And and both of these also have the Mythos creature special skill, which makes them immune to suppression and critical hits. These are going to be a bastard to put down, and well, actually, we tried a proxy game, me and Ludde, with these guys.
And they were untouchable, or at least I had a quite weak British Allied army with, some dustified units. Like the Matilda, the armored tank, and stuff like that. So they weren't trimmed to take down Cthulhu's or mythical creatures or whatever you like to call them. And there were other things concerning that game that we are not going to touch on here, but that will also make them harder to take down. But you will have to tailor your army to when you face Cthulhu's. That's no doubt about that. But also it's a learning curve, and I mean, in that aspect, I think it was a good story-wise game. I mean, thinking of an army just running into these guys
Unprepared,
unprepared. They're gonna get eaten.
Yeah.
I got eaten, so I have no problem with that. Next time we will need bigger guns. If I like to quote a good old-fashioned Rutger Hauer movie. Really
Bring
bigger
your
guns.
BFGs.
Yes, BFGs, definitely.
That's a good point, actually, because we don't yet know if these guys are going to be tournament legal. And I kind of hope they don't. Just because of that fact that if you don't bring stuff to counter these guys, then you are going to lose.
Well, yeah, or at least you should be.
I-
I think you should have like the rules that would say if you're going to play them, you have to announce that beforehand. Because if I know I will face Cthulhu's, I can bring some.
Yeah, but that also means that every other player in the game, in the tournament, has to change because of what you've chosen to do, and I don't really like that.
But
so.
no. But if with the
I
same
don't
thing,
know,
if you
we haven't seen all of the rules. I think we need to wait until the Hellgate
Yes, of
expansion
course.
actually, because
Of course.
I'm thinking when you're playing an army like this, you will have very few units, so you will be outnumbered almost always. So I'm thinking, can these guys be reactivated, for example? I'm guessing that they can't be reactivated, and that is a big downside with them.
no, but you only have to use that physical screen once. That's the problem, and you can't take it down before it can get into position and take out your army.
Yeah, it's a big nasty one, but it's 35 points, and yeah, I don't know. It also really depends on what other rules the mythos creature rule.
Oh yes,
Yes,
what it brings.
We have heard that the rules that are on the cards are not all the rules that are going to apply to these guys.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
We don't really know exactly what that's going to entail yet.
I'm thinking,
That's true.
for example, I have a feeling that these guys. I mean, if these guys are so awesome, why would you want to play human cultists, for example? So they will probably have some kind of impact on stuff. They will probably have some kind of mixed army style, or some monster style depending on the platoons, or some cultist style depending on the platoons. So I'm guessing there's more than meets the eye here. So I think we need to wait basically for the Hellgate expansion to know fully.
Yeah, and I think there's been, of course, a lot of discussion on Facebook, on Board Game Geek, on our forums about these guys and what they entail. And I don't think, at least based on the kind of chatter that we've seen so far, that not everyone is that hyped about this. Some people are just saying, I'm definitely not going to buy these. I'd play against them, of course, but I'm not buying them.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel? For me personally, I'm kind of a bit, the call of Cthulhu is strong.
Well, to me, it's not. I've never been a fan of Cthulhu. I play it because friends like Cthulhu games and stuff like that, and it's always nice to play games with friends. They do absolutely nothing for me. I'm a more Puritan. I like the traditional World War II, I would like to say, even though I love the apes, the zombies, and every other shit. So I know I'm a hypocrite. I'm talking against myself. I will, of course, not have any problem playing against them. To me, it's more of a problem if I go to a tournament and I face 8 players and all those are playing the same army, then I get bored. So it's better that 1 or 2 is playing Cthulhu, so I get some diversity. That's more interesting to me. And I think the enjoyment for me is playing my army and killing the opponent and whatever the opponent might be. So, and if my opponent is happy playing Cthulhu, of course he should play Cthulhu. And that's no problems.
And just to clarify a kind of point there, for me, the big draw with these guys are basically the models in and of themselves. I'm very much looking forward to painting these guys. And I'm looking forward to building specific scenarios where you can go like 3 against 1, so you can have like SSU, Allied and Axis armies going together and fighting these guys, and just making special kind of story moments and stuff like that. I don't think I ever want to play these guys in a tournament. I don't want to bring them to a tournament because I don't think that would be fair to my opponents.
I might. These big ones don't visually appeal to me. But the Cthulhuist cultist girls are of course nice, and also since I've had a number of possessed marines and space marines and stuff like that in that other game, I would probably like to morph a unit of Cthulhu cultists with some tentacles coming up and out of every orifice or something like that. Or I mean, that would be a nice, interesting hobby project. But
for me, I like the Mythos stuff, and I own a lot of other Cthulhu board games. But I also feel a bit hesitant with these in Dust for myself. I also will have no problems playing against them, and I definitely agree with your ideas there about special scenarios and making some. You could probably build a lot of cool specific terrain and really tailor it around the narrative stuff there. But I don't know. You should never say never, but I don't think I will start collecting these, at least not for quite some time. I have too much other stuff I already own and want to get anyways. So
yeah, and you actually touched on something there that we perhaps missed when we went through the list of new releases, because they have also had the release of now the Cthulhu Cultist Shack, or what do they call it? The little building. Mm-hmm. And in that post on the Facebook, someone listed everything that they've seen. Yeah, they know they have the pillar, they have the crypt, they have the shack, they have. There was a lot of things.
Yeah,
I think it was
a ton of stuff.
Yeah, so
you can definitely build an entire board just Cthulhu themed if you want to, and not even bring any Cthulhu units at all.
Definitely. And that actually has more of an appeal to me, because I would like to move my army into something strange and something mystical. And of course we have to, in one of our big conventions, we have to have a day off when we play a Cthulhu themed based scenario, but perhaps one of us is a game master and the other ones are coming facing the Cthulhu mysteries, or perhaps building a crypt for it or something like that. I mean, that would of course be great.
But I actually think it's very interesting because I think that you guys kind of reaction to this seems to be the representative kind of opinion that we see on most of the places that we hang out on the internet. But I actually don't think that these units or these models are primarily meant for us existing players.
No. Exactly.
These are specifically tailored to get new players interested in Dust that haven't been before.
Yeah, it's a chance to bring in a completely different group of players. Those that are not that interested in World War II or even Weird War. Usually there's a lot of players who really like the mythos and don't really care too much about World War II stuff. And this is a chance to bring in those players as well. And they will probably say the exact opposite, basically, that I will only play the Cthulhu stuff, and I don't mind playing against World War II stuff, but the Cthulhu stuff is the great things.
And I think that's exactly why they bring out these guys before they bring out the Vril aliens. Mm-hmm. Because the Vril aliens are going to be for us. They are definitely going to be for the veterans who've been waiting for them ever since the game launched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course people are a little bit bitter that these guys are kind of getting the spotlight at the moment, but that doesn't mean that the Vril aliens aren't coming, because we've had a lot of confirmation they definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, they explain that the basically the Vril and the old ones are the arch enemies of thousands of years.
Yeah.
They've been fighting everywhere, and now they happen to be very soon they happen to be fighting on Earth. So that seems very logical.
Yeah, and of course I would like the Vrils, I would like the Japanese army, I would have liked the new choppers for the SSU, and I have waited so much for the trucks. At the moment, of course, I'm stranded economically because I have 2 teeth that I've repaired and a motorcycle I bought and stuff like that, so I'm totally wrecked economy-wise. But I mean, still, I would not been able to buy everything that I'm looking forward to. So, of course, it doesn't matter. It will be nice when the Brill arrives, but I can wait. It's no problem. 2 or 3 years, my economy will feel good about it. I mean,
and it's not like we don't have enough units to play with until then.
No, it's not.
You sure?
Yeah, it's...
Ask my wife.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but it's gonna be very interesting to see where this is going.
Absolutely. Just talking a little bit about tournaments, we did talk a bit about the tournament in Germany that you're going to, Ludde.
Yeah, me and Kalle is going to fly down there, so we are both registered. I think Kalle has already paid. I'm always late with paying. I'm sorry, Germans, if you hear this. And tournament-wise, I hope you accept me anyway. I will be paying, but we have booked the flights, so we're coming, and it will be an extremely interesting event, I think. They do some stuff a little bit different there. I don't perhaps agree with everything they do, but it will be so interesting to see another way of playing the game. It's not...
Yeah, and this is the German Championship, something like that, yeah? And when is this happening?
It's in the 18th and 19th of November, so...
a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's why we rehearsed this week, and we're at least gonna... And play a few of the scenarios, and I might be wrong now, but when I glance through the scenarios, we haven't prepared that much so far. I get the feeling that they've tried to make a theme on the 5 scenarios. They have 5 scenarios. They all have a small ground story that we're like almost approaching a castle or something strange or something mystical. So I get the feeling that all the scenarios are placed in one location, but they're very different. One with the forest, one is underground, one is with water and houses and stuff like that. So yeah, I really hope I have the chance to play all 5 scenarios down there. And perhaps they have some other way they will present the overall winner of fractions and stuff like that, because it just feels like we're battling for a place at the same time as we battle for ourselves and the tournament. And
sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and since they have so specific rules for each scenario also, it put a lot of demands on the way you build your army. They have, of course, restrictions and stuff like that. I'm very much looking forward to this, and I think it can be extremely interesting and extremely fun.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to hearing some thoughts and experiences from this next episode.
Yeah, I'll
Detailed
take
battle report.
I take the responsibility for getting a good report on this. I will take Kalle's help in the on the trip, and to collect as much data for this podcast as well, so we can do a good summary on the German masters.
Very nice. We also had a small tournament recently here in Sweden that you attended.
Yeah, the Tranås Dust Days. It was super great, and it's also one of those things where I just so enjoy when people take another take on things, because we had this famous cheese scenario.
Yeah.
We were actually battling, because at Tranås they have a huge cheese factory, and so they replicated the cheese factory.
I mean, we're talking real life.
Yeah, real life
factory.
cheese factory.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were battling for the cheese that you can buy in Tranås in one scenario, and the thing is, it's rumored to smell so much that you have to roll to stand on the building and the objectives when they had cheese as objective. So you actually you could take injury from the cheese, the smell of the cheese. I mean, it's silly, but at the same time, the scenario in itself was very well done. And the guy who made it is just so smart. He's a great player. He has some weird ideas, but they're always funny. And it was very playable. At least I didn't play that scenario, unfortunately. I played all the others, but the ones that played it seemed to have had enjoyed it very much. So it was nothing wrong with the scenario. And the guys at Tranås, they have a tendency to have a very relaxed, good-humored approach to the thing, and I enjoy that so much. It's not that die-hard hardcore we have to win. It's not that we play that way, but if you compare the Gothenburg tournaments with the Tranås tournaments, you easily get, it's more fun and games at Tranås, and in Gothenburg it's more like, okay, we play. I mean, it gets more serious.
That's actually a very interesting point, because we have these kind of semi-regular tournaments in different parts of Sweden, and all of them have very different personalities and feeling.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I don't want it to be the same everywhere. I don't think that's the point.
No, me too. That's why also I go to Poland. That's why I go to Belgium. That's why I'm now going to Germany, because you get that different taste. Even if we play the same thing, I love it that we can do it a little bit different. And
it's great to have those all those different experiences, and to like bring home cool ideas. If somebody else is doing something good, then you can just bring that idea home and use it in your own events. That's awesome.
That's also the key part for me why I started with Dust, because I got fed up with the group I was playing 40K with. I'm sorry if anyone of those are listening, but they only wanted to play in a very strict format, only the certain rules, only certain scenarios and stuff like that. And I wanted it to just be free and more open. And that's why I immediately fell in love when I read how Paolo seemed to be thinking about it, at least before. And I have seen nothing that changed that he endorsed the dustification of units, that as long as you enjoy my universe, I don't care how you play, with what you play, do whatever you like, bring that shit in if you want to. Okay, you can't use it in the tournament, but do it, enrich your hobby. And every other hobby manufacturer before, I've always seen like, oh, only buy our stuff. So we're like, yeah, I understand you want us to buy your stuff. Of course you want to survive. But here was someone who just said, oh, if you want to buy our stuff, please do. But if you want to play, just play and enjoy yourself, have a good time. That's the most important thing to me, because I'm also a player, a hobby guy, and a collector and miniature builder and painter and stuff like that. And that has always given me more fuel to want to invest in Paolo's vision and his Dust universe. That's to me, it's the big spark that makes me having so strong feelings for Dust. I mean,
yeah, it just feeds creativity, and I enjoy that very much as well. And if we kind of pull this thread a bit longer, if we have some kind of parting tips or ideas, if anyone out there wants to put together their own tournament or their own event, what can we kind of impart to them? Apart from this, of course, kind of sense of creativity. Do whatever you want. Try out ideas, first of all. But
yeah, that's creativity, and to, I don't know, actually go for it. I think a lot of people are... I'm guessing that a lot of people have been thinking about it, and sometimes we can see that on different like forums. People are discussing and saying, oh, there's no tournament over here, I wish somebody organized it. Well, do it yourself.
Definitely. Be as open and clear as you can to say, I'm doing it, and I'm doing it this way because this is what I want to do.
Next time can be different, but this time we'll do it this way, and just go for it, basically. Everything starts out small.
Yes,
in that
absolutely.
regard. So you don't have to prepare for a massive tournament the first thing you do. Just try to get a few friends. You can be as few as like 4 people or something, and just play a round robin. Everyone meets everyone else, and then you decide who wins. And just start doing it, and it will grow from there. I can almost guarantee that, because other people will find that, oh, these guys are having a lot of fun. I want to have fun too, and they will join.
Yeah, we always, in the beginning at least of all our tournaments, I don't think we do it as much these days, because everyone has heard us say it so many times. But we always had, like the last thing we said before we started the tournament, guys, remember, we're here to have fun. Whatever happens, focus on the fun factor. Solve it, be friends, roll a die, have fun. And as long as you bring that as the cornerstone of a tournament, have fun. And just make sure, of course, that no one has misinterpreted something.
Yeah,
Do a run through beforehand.
That's one of the points that we talked about earlier. But I think it's important to kind of hammer that point home, because it's really important. Be very clear with how you are running things.
Yeah.
So there is no room for misinterpretation, or if there is, at least have the rules written down. Have the way you run things written down, so you have something to refer to.
Yeah.
And if someone has a problem with this, you can refer them to the document.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. That helps a very lot to just avoid or just handle conflicts.
And of course, it's not good if someone is not reading the document and getting pissed or getting a bad feeling, but at least then it's up to them. They haven't read the document. So, I mean, we have tried, you have tried.
That's, fairly early when we started out. It's like, I don't know, a couple of years ago now, something like that. I think it's almost 3 years now since we kind of started doing this regular event stuff. It was, I don't know, 3 years ago. Anyway, I put together a fairly rough, fairly quick document the first time, just to put out some of those, like, ground rules or whatever you want to call them. Just something on paper, put it up on the website so everyone can read it. So to get people to have some kind of picture before they come to the event, like, this is what we can expect. So we are, like, starting on the same page, basically. That was my idea. I wanted, because I kind of realized that we haven't done too many of these, and there were very different players coming from different backgrounds. They played very different games before, and like a common ground to start from. So I think that's a good idea when you start something like this. It doesn't have to be a tournament necessarily. You can have some kind of campaign day or some, I don't know, a lot of different stuff, but you should make some kind of rough battle plan. So the people who are going to participate will know what to expect from it. Both, just players participating, and also if you have other people helping out with organizing, so you are discussing the same things and also in the beginning, I think you should just touch on what do you personally want to get out of it. Well, I think this is kind of important, because if you don't have, I don't know, an idea, do you want to just play and have fun? Do you want to grow the community? Do you want to, I don't know, practice for another tournament, or whatever it is you want to do? Just make some kind of picture of it, what you personally want it when you are organizing. That I've found over the years that helps a lot to kind of keep your focus on the event or on the series of events that you are planning. And again, players also prefer, I would say, reliability. They prefer to have clear information, and if you have that picture in your head, just try to put it down on paper. It helps a lot to get everything to run a lot smoother.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication is key, definitely.
Yeah.
Because this is something that we see a lot of people, not just trying to run events, but just trying to grow their community. We see this a lot, like people saying, what am I going to do? There's nobody playing Dust where I live. Well, you can start a group. You can start people getting interested in playing. It's maybe take a while before they actually buy some models themselves, but they can play with your models in the meantime, if you have enough to build 2 armies. If you play in a public place, in a gaming kind of club or in a store, then people are going to see it. They are going to be interested. They maybe want to try it out next time. Maybe they are going to buy stuff. Maybe they are going to try it. So this is definitely not impossible in any way, shape, or form.
No, and I mean, I think it was the first couple of events that we did here in Gothenburg. We started out with fairly small armies. I think it was 75 points. And I remember at least a couple other players, they just borrowed their whole 75 army belonged to somebody else who was also playing in the tournament. So if you have a collection, just put together a couple of extra armies and invite some friends. You don't have to make it a tournament by that. Just run some kind of campaign day. It's awesome when you have some new players. They will be on the same level, and you can probably guide them through playing. Maybe you, who is organizing, should not play yourself. You can be like a game master basically, and then just help all the others.
That depends a little bit on how big the tournament is.
Yeah,
if it's your first tournament, it's always good to stand on the side, and you were always good on doing that. You were always a great tournament organizer for us in the beginning. But I mean, if it's a small tournament, and if you play, like you say, with 50 points or 75 or something like that, don't be shy on trying to think, because I think that's an experience we had many times, that you easily think that, I have to play 100 points, I have to have 150 or something like that, because otherwise it's not big enough, they won't think it's good enough for... But we have had some extremely good demo games and tournament games when we've played lesser points.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's one of the great things. There are so many great things with Dust, but this is one of the great things, that it's very scalable. So you can have some really interesting and awesome games with fairly small armies. They don't have to be big. So start out small and then grow as you go, basically.
Yeah, and this is could perhaps be interpreted wrong way as well. But it also, I know some tournaments when we had started making scenery, and perhaps some players that came to the tournament didn't like the scenery. I actually turned a blind eye when I noticed that they agreed beforehand on the table to not use the rules for the scenery or something. But it just, I mean, as long as people once again have fun and agree with themselves, it doesn't matter too much if that's a ruin or if it's a real house or if that's a rough terrain or a block terrain or something. Just as long as beforehand you agree and just well.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a few tips and tricks to get people started, we hope, and especially now with these new starter sets and all the stuff coming out, I'm hoping we're going to see an influx of a lot of new players, and it's up to us, the veterans, everyone, and you listening to welcome them, to make sure that people are having fun and they are getting welcomed, they feel like they want to keep playing this game. Because that's how we keep playing, by getting new people interested.
Yeah, definitely. And just on touching that, I just got a message actually from Marek concerning Essen. Apparently, he says there are 70 new players after Essen at least, and that's really
very nice.
Not all of the new starters have gone. A lot of them have been sold. He's not giving me a specific number, but there's still a few left. So hop over to that. War Factory homepage and order yours before the last ones are going. A little bit commercial, I know, but since we've touched on it beforehand, there's still a few of them left, and they are limited amount, at least that's what we're learning. So make sure you get one if you want one.
Yeah, great. So I think that's a kind of good point to go out on. So I would like to thank you two guys for joining me for this episode.
Thank you.
And thank all of our listeners for sticking with us. And as usual, we will see you on the battlefield. All music used in this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. If you want to get in contact with me and this podcast, you can email dustwarjournals@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at dustwarjournals.